What's going on, everybody? Leo Lee here. And today, I want to talk about Lies of P Overture, the DLC. And like many of you, when this DLC was first announced, I was stoked. Super excited about it. And then, they shadow dropped it. Awesome. Right? You would think so. I mean, the base game was one of my favorite Souls-like. And I think, in my opinion, I mean, I haven't played every Souls-like out there, but in my opinion, it's the best Souls-like that I've played. So yeah, of course, I was very happy to hear about the DLC. But was it as good as I hoped it'd be? Somewhat. I mean, definitely there are some flaws of the game, but overall, yes, I was very pleased. I think the DLC was worth it. Unfortunately, that was tainted by many negative moments as well. But let's go over that. I'm not going to have any spoilers in here. Well, I'm going to at least try not to spoil too much. Definitely nothing about the story because I'm going to be honest, I didn't pay that close attention to the story. I play Souls-like for the combat, right? I don't really play it for the lore. You can watch YouTubers like Nvidia for Souls lore. I don't think he does it on Lies of P though. But you know what I mean. But yeah, I'm going to have some of my gameplay playing in the background. It's not going to be related to anything I'm speaking about. Just something for you guys to visually see instead of having to pay attention to this ugly mug. All right, let's get into this. All right, so let's briefly talk about Overture's world. There are some new areas, but it's mostly revisiting old areas with a different aesthetic because it takes place in the past. Of course, just like the base game, the art direction is still fantastic. It's still one of the best, if not the best, looking Souls-like games out there. And you can tell it takes heavy inspiration from the Souls genres, particularly Bloodborne. Everybody likes to make that comparison, and they're not wrong. The level design is also top-notch as always. You got the interconnected shortcut paths to like your bonfire or stargazer as it's called here. So all that's still there, and it's still wonderful. In terms of graphics, this game performs very well. The base game did as well. Had very minimal issues with the base game. Of course, it's built on Unreal 4, but even for an Unreal 4 game, it was incredibly stable. But you still do have, minor stutters here and there. Happens in cutscenes too, but nothing egregious. Nothing like most of its competitors that are out these days. Let's be real, PC games are highly unoptimized these days. So, I appreciate neowiz for putting out a stellar product that's well optimized for the PC. I don't think I had a single crash with this game. I might have had one, I'm not sure. But anyways, just goes to show how many problems I didn't have. Can't even remember if I did. So on the graphics end, nothing to really complain about. Still looks great. But what I really wanted to get into and why I wanted to make this video in particular is about the game's combat and difficulty. So one of my major gripes with this game. Well, first of all, let's talk about enemies. There are new enemy types. There's actually several new enemy types, but there are an equal amount of reused enemies, just reskinned. But, it's a Souls game. But my first major problem with this game that I noticed immediately, and actually you can see you're going to see in this video that I'm playing in the background. Here we go. Okay. One of the major cons that I immediately came across is the mob density in the DLC. I mean, the base game was also very gankfesty. And, if you don't know what gankfest means, it just means multiple enemies attacking you at once. In Overture, this is like tuned to the max. Maybe it's my old man memory being hazy, but I do not remember the base game being this heavy with the gankfest. The mob density is like super high in this game. So it's almost like every minute of this game, you're facing minimum 4 enemies at once at all times. It's pretty nuts. And half of these enemies throw things at you too. So, and the problem with that is I've always felt that gankfests and Souls-like, it's adding a layer of artificial difficulty. There are situations where you're just getting a million things tossed at you while you're fighting, like your basic mobs and sometimes mini bosses in there as well, or the bigger, tougher enemies. And they're all mixed in there and everything's just coming at you from all different directions. You're getting hit by projectiles, and it just feels so unfair because it's just not humanly possible to sit there and try to parry and dodge everything perfectly in that situation. It's all RNG based, right? that projectile headed your way could be coming at the exact same time two enemies are attacking you. So I've always had a disdain for Gankfest and Souls-like. And I really wish, and this, FromSoft themselves are guilty of this. Elden Ring was full of this as well. I really wish these developers who are making Souls-like games, including FromSoft, would stop relying so much on Gankfest. I'm not a fan of it. It's the reason why I don't like Dark Souls 2. I mean, it's not as bad as everybody said when I ultimately ended up playing Dark Souls 2, but still, that is my most hated aspect of Dark Souls 2. And Overture is just full of this. And a big problem with that is, like Elden Ring's DLC and Shadow of the Erdtree, in Overture, these enemies are very, very tuned. Meaning, you're going to get one-shot, two-shotted, and they're just damage sponges until you level up more. And I went into this, I think, at level 80 or something like that. I ended the game maybe, I think, at 100, level 120, and I still had bosses that were able to like three-shot me. So it just feels very unfair at times, and they just went overboard with the mob density, in my opinion. When it comes to the bosses, though, again, I'm going to just have to touch on the art design aspect of it, the art direction, I mean. The art direction is phenomenal. These bosses look amazing. Some of these DLC bosses were just stellar experiences, cinematically speaking, and in terms of their, art direction. Just phenomenal. I don't have any complaints there. However, the fight mechanic itself, oh my god. And it starts with the very first major boss in the DLC. It's this big gator. I think they call it the Tyrannical Predator. Oh my gosh, let me tell you, it's probably the worst boss of the entire game. And that's including the base game of Lies of P. And in the DLC, I think he was the single most worst experience of the game. The problem with that first boss is it's a gigantic gator, and you have to fight him in a small arena, like a small area. So there's like cliff walls surrounding you. And this enemy's attacks, all of his attacks, almost all of them, constantly push you into this wall. And once you're like pushed against a wall, the game becomes basically first-person mode. So you're playing a first-person Souls-like. It's crazy. And all you're seeing is just this big gator mouth in front of the camera chomping at you. So like, how are you supposed to deal with that? You're meant to parry and dodge in this game. I can't parry and dodge what I can't see. And again, FromSoft is not innocent from this either. Shadow of the Erdtree, Dancing Lion comes to mind, one of the very first bosses, also had this issue. But this gator boss in Overture, it took it to the next level. Like, I was 90% of the fight, I was up against the wall, and the camera was just crazy. And it doesn't stop with the first boss, unfortunately. And that really, really taints the DLC for me. And it doesn't stop with the first boss. This seems to be a theme throughout the entire DLC. It felt like every single boss had movesets that pushed you against walls. So you are battling the camera constantly, and it's just a point of frustration. And it leads back to what I said about mob density and why I don't like Gankfests. At that point, when I'm fighting and struggling with the camera, I feel like this is artificial difficulty. I'm not being beat because I'm not able to, predict the enemy pattern. It's because I can't even see their pattern. I can't see what's going on. I'm being pushed against the walls constantly, and the camera's just in their face. I'm not playing Skyrim. This is Lies of P. But it felt like Skyrim half the time in these boss fights. Not every single boss is like that, but I'd say the large majority of them were. And I'm talking even if you parry their combos. Like, there were bosses where I parried every single one of their, something absurd like a 10-hit combo, but it was still pushing me against the wall. That's so frustrating, I can't complain about that enough. It's my biggest complaint of the game. Never mind the mob density, never mind that. Never mind how you can get one or two shotted. I did not like struggling with the camera for most of the boss fights. It was just pain in my butt. The other thing I want to talk about when it comes to the bosses are some of their combo strings. Some of these bosses have what seemingly endless combo strings. Like, why are these bosses all doing 10, 15 hit combos? It's absurd. Like, give me some time to breathe. Like, it's okay to let the player have a little break to heal, all right? You don't gotta overwhelm players like that. It's not fun. But regardless of that, I will say there's a couple of bosses in here that were very memorable, and I had a fantastic time fighting, even if it was frustrating. I don't want to spoil too much, but there is this one boss, and I'm just going to say the only part I'll spoil is that it's a duo boss, okay? It's a duo boss. All right. Fantastic. Awesome. Very cinematic. I loved it. But yes, I still struggled a little bit with the camera and who to focus and stuff. But just based on the cinematics and the art direction and just how cool they presented that fight, it made up for all of that. And it wasn't overly frustrating. The Gator's still much worse. The very first boss in the DLC is still worse. And by the way, that's the boss you start your DLC out with? Really? That big Gator that pushes you against the wall and make you feel like you're playing Skyrim and not Lies of P? That's what you wanna run with as the first boss, is the welcome to the DLC experience? Now, let me talk about the final boss of the game. Boy. But first, a little about me if you're new to the channel and you're not familiar with my previous Souls content. I am what you would call a purist. I'm not trying to say that to be condescending or anything, but literally I think that's what they call players like me are purists, okay? I don't like using summons. I don't like using a bunch of items to buff myself. I don't even like in Elden Ring using Ash of Wars. I mean, I'll use them on regular mobs and stuff for fun, but I'm typically a player that just likes to melee, parry, and dodge. That's how I like to approach boss fights. That's the fun I obtain from these games. I went through the entirety of Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree included, without using summons. Actually, I used it once just to experience it, and I think it was on Margit. Margit or Margot? I can never remember, differentiate the two. But I used it on one of them. I regretted it. I beat him first try with that summon, and I really regretted my decision that day because I didn't really get to fully enjoy the experience of learning, that boss's pattern. So I didn't use summons ever again outside of that. Shadow of the Erdtree included again. Fast forward to Lies of P Overture. On the final boss, guess what I resorted to? I used the summon. Yes, I admit it. I used the summon. And even after using the summon, it still took me multiple tries. And I'm saying this to let you guys know how absurd this final boss is. This final boss was on another level. I'm telling you, I had a much easier time learning Concert Radon. And I spent hours upon hours on Concert Radon learning how to parry his moves. That's the only reason I took as long as I did, is because I was learning how to parry him. All right? This boss in Lies of P, this final boss, this MFer, next level. Just next level cheap. Next level fuckery. Excuse my French. Oh my God. It was when I say input reading, I mean this boss was hardcore input reading. And usually when you hear input reading in Souls-like games, you're thinking about healing, right? No. Healing is included in this equation, but no. He was literally input reading other inputs. So he would sit there and just walk around and not doing anything until I pressed a button. Right? Then he has combos. It doesn't stop there. He has combos that are endless. And he has some combo strings where you see him, he ends it, and he legit ends it, doesn't have a follow-up. But if you see that same combo the next time and you press a button when you think it's safe because, oh, this is that same combo he did before. He didn't do another move after this. I'm safe to heal or attack. No. He will extend his combo based on your input. And he won't even do it every single time. It's a crapshoot. So sometimes you press an input, he's going to extend that combo that he didn't finish before. He's going to extend it by adding another combo string. Or sometimes he's not going to do anything and actually give you time to attack him or get a heal in there. It's a complete guessing game if he's going to read your input at that moment or not. But he does. And he actually extends his combo. That's even Elden Ring, even Souls games don't do that. They input read your heals, yes, but they don't add an extension to their combos based on your input. That's madness. That is 100% artificial difficulty. It's crazy. This boss is crazy. It's nuts. And let me tell you, he has I swear to you, it's like 20 hit combos. It's nuts. It's crazy. I couldn't believe it. Was he cool looking? Yeah, he was cool. The boss was really cool. The fight was cinematic. I mean, really dope. Maybe if I go back and bother to learn him again, I'll feel different. But as it stands right now, I hated that fight. It was horrible. And right now, I don't have a desire to go back and fight him. In fact, I have no desire to go back to the DLC at all. That's just how I feel about this DLC. But yeah, man, I went on a tangent there, didn't I? But yeah, that's really all I wanted to make a video about. Just, you know, a short video on my overall thoughts about Overture. Do I like the DLC? I do. I do like the DLC. It's still probably one of the best Souls-like experience that can be had out there. I don't want this video to be, you know, pushing people away from playing it. Again, I played through it kind of in a pure way. I have friends that are playing this game and they don't have any qualms about using, you know, all the tools available to them. You can go ahead and do that. Plus, there's also a difficulty setting in this game now, which is awesome for players who are apprehensive about trying it because of how difficult it might be. I don't exactly know what the difficulty settings do. I didn't use it myself. I just put it on the hardest difficulty and left it at that. Yeah, it's just, it's a me thing. It's just, I personally feel, you know, if this game's designed around a certain difficulty, I don't like it when I feel like I'm pressured into using things like summons and, you know, using a bunch of items that stagger the enemy. I just dislike being pushed into using those kind of things. But, you know, that's no judgment on anyone else who plays a game and uses everything available to them. No judgment on my part. Of course not. I'm not that pretentious. In my opinion, still a phenomenal Souls-like title. I do like the base game more than the DLC. Oh, one more gripe about the DLC, by the way. There was a severe lack of boss ergos. I think there was only 2 boss ergos in here. I mean, it gives you a bunch of weapons throughout the map. But what I really liked about the base game, and like any Souls game really, is getting the boss weapons. And I think only 2 of them dropped it in the DLC, which was kind of disappointing. I was really looking forward to, you know, using some of these boss weapons that I came across, but they're just not there. But some of the DLC weapons are cool anyway, so there's that. I, you know, mostly used I still use the 2 dragon sword for the sword parry. It's, my opinion, still the best weapon in the game. But yeah, there are plenty of cool weapons in there. Just a little disappointing that there was only 2 boss weapons in it. Again, I do like the base game, Liza P, better than the DLC. I still think DLC is worth your time and effort, especially if you're a fan of the base game. The DLC is worth going through, but just be warned. It's much more difficult, like significantly more difficult. And I'm gonna go as far to say it's more difficult than Shadow of the Erdtree. Because at least in Shadow of the Erdtree, you can get the Shadow fragments and really buff yourself up, and it made that game a lot more bearable. But in terms of artificial difficulty and some of the crazy bosses and struggling with the camera half the time, I think Shadow of the Erdtree is the easier game. Never thought I'd say that in a million years, but yeah, I had more difficulty going through Overture than I did Shadow of the Erdtree. But Overture is also shorter though. But yeah, it is what it is. If I had to give it a number rating, what would I give this DLC? I would still rate it at 8 out of 10. Whereas the base game, I would give like a 9.5 out of 10. The DLC is a solid 8 for me. It's okay. So it's an experience. I don't hate it. I don't exactly love it, but I did thoroughly enjoy it. If any of that makes any sense to you guys, I am very excited still for neowiz's next title, whether it's within the Liza P universe or it's a direct sequel to it, or if they're just moving on to a completely new Souls-like. I'm very, very excited to see what they have in store for us next. They've just been doing a fantastic job, and it's amazing to think that this was their first like major like AAA level video game. It's insane how polished it is and how awesome it is. Unfortunately, you know, I think they went a little too far with the DLC and overtuning the difficulty. But again, did they do that because they knew they were going to add a difficulty option? Who knows? But I can only speak on my experiences. Okay, enough rambling. Excuse me. This is the first time I've done a review of this nature, so I'm a yapping idiot right now.
All right, what do I put on the down part?
Anyhow, don't forget, people. I might not have a set schedule, but I do stream. So make sure you hit that notification bell, whatever these YouTubers like to call it. But make sure you enable your notifications so you know when I'm streaming, and hop on by the stream. I play a variety of games. I'm not just a Souls content creator. I play like Marvel Rivals and all that. So I'd love to see you guys stop by one of my streams one of these days. Stop in and say hello. Other than that, hope you guys have a good one. Till next time, like and subscribe. Take care of yourselves.